Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode number 53 of Cardboard Time. This is Arwen, and with me is Jamie. Hi, Jamie, how are you?
Well, hello there. I am doing just fine. I had a brief stint of like coma-like or death-like sleep, and I'm here and I'm ready to be awake for at least 6 hours.
Well,
So
you,
far, I'm on hour number 8, so I'm shooting above average.
well, you said like brief stint. What does that look like for you?
Actually, I slept more last night than I normally do.
Oh,
I
wow.
went to bed probably around 7 a.m. because we got home at 6:30.
Hmm.
And yeah, I woke up abruptly at 2:15 when my parents came to drop my dog off,
Well, there you
and
go.
didn't know what year it was.
Yeah, I think that was about where I was this morning when I was asked to move my car. Um, and I got some sleep, but it was kind of interrupted because Allie had to come in and say, "Hey, your car's behind mine." And I'm like, "Oh no, I just should have moved it last night." And I briefly thought about moving it, and I didn't, and that was an immediate mistake. But it is what it is. So, just as a warning for everybody that's out there, this will be a completely unedited episode. We are incredibly tired, or at least I am, and I have to work tomorrow. So, we want to get this out and in your hands. Our thoughts on PAX Unplugged 2022. Always excited to talk about it, and we always do these kind of half lucid recaps and reviews, and they wind up turning out to be some of our favorite episodes to do, and certainly our listeners out there as well. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I was I always love the chit chat in the car format, but we did have quite a few people that we were traveling with, so I don't think it would have worked. Also, we were deliriously tired while we drove home, and yeah, so that was a big factor in our decision.
And we're gonna get into that drive home a little bit later because there's some things I want to mention from that are kind of fun stories about that. But yeah, PAX Unplugged 2022 is in the books. It is done. We survived. We made it. To me, it was a great event. It was definitely one that was for the record books and left me feeling good, left me feeling satisfied about what I got done, and hanging out with people. Obviously, I would love to be there a month more to hang out with everybody and meet with everybody and get to really play a lot of good games with them and share some memories and that. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works, and we need to make money, unfortunately. So that's that's where we're at. But
Ain't that the worst?
it really is. They should just pay us to do this every other week, and get health insurance, and pay mortgage and credit cards and
Yeah,
all that good
I'm not
stuff.
sure who they is, but yeah, we should get they on this.
They need to do it. Again, yeah, you make a good point, Jamie. I don't
I
know
think
who
it's
they
the
are.
man.
The man
The man.
holding us down, oppressing us under
That's
their
right.
thumb, because we don't know. We don't know who they are. So yeah, we got basically in the car at, what was it, 8:30, 9 o'clock on Wednesday.
Yeah, something like
Uh,
that. Time has no
when
meaning.
No, it's all kind of a blur at this point. We wound up getting into Philadelphia, with relatively no incident whatsoever. I mean, it was pretty straightforward drive. until you get to South Philadelphia, and that was new for me. And I didn't know if you were going to elaborate, Jamie. So there's
I
there's a good gap.
I I don't know what to say about South Philadelphia. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um,
It was
there's
quite zesty.
it it was zesty is a great word for it. I honestly like I was so kind of like not taken aback. Like it wasn't like something I hadn't seen before or anything like ridiculous, but like I just wasn't ready for it at that time of night. And having gone there at that point, like I blocked it out of my mind because it was such a small portion of the weekend that it almost feels like it was just a different trip entirely. And it certainly felt like a different place than where we were, in the downtown area. So it definitely was definitely a strange experience to say the least. I really applaud your maneuverability efforts. And, even though I am not always everyone's favorite driver, I certainly am good at maneuverability, and I will take the kudos for that. So, in the future, if we ever find ourselves in an alley like we did, I'd be happy to switch places with you.
Yeah, because I ain't doing it again. I was not going down there again after going down there the first time. Yeah, so those who are unfamiliar with Philadelphia and maybe haven't seen an older city with very narrow streets, South Philadelphia is just this grid of one-way streets, basically with cars on both sides, piled as close to each other as they possibly can be. And, it's just this line of cars that you are trying to maneuver in and out of. And, if somebody stopped or needs to drop something off, you're going to wait until they're done because you can't go through them. And I
Yeah,
don't have
like
those go-go gadget wheels that, could basically spring me up and over. That
you
doesn't
bring up a good
exist on my
point.
car.
I think that's I think that's all the evidence you need to know that Inspector Gadget is from South Philly. Um, that or Wacky Races that probably also
Mhm.
started in South Philly.
Mhm.
Because we did have one situation where the GPS told us to go down one way, and some guy just decided that it was his time to put on his magic blinky lights and not move. So we were not able to go that way. So I can only imagine what it's like on a normal day when there are actually cars traveling to and fro. Um, you know, all that said, uh, that's actually where my mom grew up. So there's a lot of Jamie history in that city. Not necessarily in South Philly, but in that row house style. That's where my humble beginnings could have been in a different universe.
The potential Jamie alternate universe origin story.
Yeah. The JAU, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so when they write your story in comic book form 20 years from now and they get to the point that they've exhausted all their options, that's where they're going to start back from.
Exactly. I'll emerge like from a sewer in South Philly, and I will only be stopped by that guy with his blinky lights on. So everybody will be fine because I can't leave South Philly.
My weakness, my one weakness.
My
that
one
cannot be
weakness is blinky
overcome.
lights.
The blinky lights. I cannot overcome them. But we dropped our two passengers besides you and Rachel off at their Airbnb that was down there. And we got back to a hotel that we had booked so that we didn't have to spend an exorbitant amount to stay an extra night. So that's what we did Wednesday night. Got a couple hours of sleep and then moved everything to our new hotel, which was very nice. It was extremely close just about the closest thing that you could get right to the convention center, and that was a beautiful thing. Because if you had to go back during the middle of the day, which I did on occasion, you were just able to go right outside of the convention center, dump your stuff off, hang out at the hotel, grab a snack, grab a coffee, meet up with people, which was absolutely fantastic and a wonderful time.
Yeah, the whole thing, I mean, again, I think this is kind of our karmic reward for, like what we had to deal with in Gen Con, because that was an experience that I'm not eager to replicate.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I don't know if I ever want to drive to a hotel at a convention again. I really haven't done that. I mean, I did it during Dragon Con back in 2012, and I haven't done it since. And I'd like to not, other than Gen Con, I'd like to not do it again. I think it's absolutely worth it. The stuff that we do is really worth it to be very close and have a place that you can go, especially when it's late, considering safety. That's a big thing. So it was nice to have that safety factor of the hotel right there. The market was right across the street. Reading Terminal is a wonderful venue filled with magnificent food. We got a cheesesteak. We got some really good Indian while we were there. Butter cake, which, by the way, I had some of that earlier, and it is something. If you're ever in Philadelphia, do yourself a favor and go get yourself some butter cake from Reading Terminal. It is to die for.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, definitely. And no one in your party ordered 4 of those butter cakes to take home. Just want to throw that out there. None of us, not a single one, did that.
Mm-hmm. No, that didn't happen. It didn't happen at all. That wasn't a thing. Not that anybody would blame you for doing that, but that didn't happen. So, other than that, on Thursday, it was mostly just a hangout day. I got my hair done. There's an Ulta that's right there. So again, being in the city, there's advantages. There's an Ulta, there's a Primark. I got to do a little shopping, which was so cool. Just basically walking over and popping in. It's kind of become a ritual for me because I still do have, kind of complications with my hair and being able to work with it and get it exactly how I want before a convention. I want to look nice, so I treat myself to a blowout and get my hair done, and it usually lasts me pretty much the entire weekend. So that was a fun Thursday activity. I think Thursday was when we met up with Matt and Olivia as well, which was an absolute treat.
Oh, absolutely. They were a highlight of my con experience, and it didn't end there. I mean, that night alone was so delightful. But little did we know the remainder of the weekend would be even better. But even if it had ended there, we had so much fun with them that I could have called it, and I would have been happy. Just some great new friends that we made. Also, I definitely need to join you next time you go get your hair done before a con. I think that's just such a great little self-care thing. We were talking to a couple other folks that were telling us that they went and got manicures and stuff like that, and I'm like, I think everybody should start the con with that. Just like a little moment where everybody takes a beat, thinks about what they're about to get into, and just sort of like prepares for it mentally while giving themselves a little nice treat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a really wonderful thing, and self-care is so important when you go to these things because it's so easy, especially during the weekend. You're very hard on your body. You're very hard on, anything from your sleep schedule to, showering to all that good stuff. I mean, we always got a shower in as much as we could, except for... I think it was Friday morning when the hot water didn't work the first day of the con?
I wouldn't know. I showered at night.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You did. Um, but you're always, kind of on that edge of, this is outside of your normal operating parameters. And I think that self-care is super important. And I think that it's a really good idea. So I definitely will coordinate with you for the next convention that we go to, which is probably going to be Origins. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a little bit sad about that, but yeah, we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm. So, then we got into Friday. And Friday, like, one thing that we did that was kind of out of process for us is, we still had a lot of our meetings together. But we did kind of separate a little bit, and kind of divide and conquered, which I thought worked pretty well. You had some stuff going on, which we're going to talk about. But I started my day off with the Schwazi tournament, and I got knocked out the first round. So
That is so funny. Like, I really am sad that I missed out on that because it's such a goofy little thing that I feel like would have just set the tone for the whole thing, the whole con.
yeah, and for those who aren't familiar, Schwazi is a app that you basically put your finger on a phone. A group who's playing a game usually will put their finger. It will detect that there's, however many fingers on the phone, and then it will pick one person who usually is the start player.
I do have a quick question about that. How many people were in each round?
It was normally 6.
Because every time I try to do 6 with my app, it doesn't work.
So we had some technical issues at the outset, and it was basically we had to get a new phone. Somebody had to pull out their phone as a backup and said, "Here, use this," because depending on the phone is how many inputs it can detect. So that was kind of a thing that we had to switch out. So
Gotcha.
yeah, certain phones can't handle that many.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was fun to see. They kept the line moving. I got there a little bit early, and that was absolutely okay. I basically got through and then proceeded to lose, and then hung out, did a little shopping, and then we both met with Resin. Really happy to meet up with them. I think that they're a fantastic company. Their main product that you might know is Phantom Ink, which to me was one of the highlights, and I'm going to say it right here, probably my game of the convention. It's just really satisfying. Like it reminds me a little bit of Codenames and how it plays, but it's not that at all either.
I'm really glad to hear you say that, because I was kind of thinking the same thing. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but you're totally right, and I want to hear more about what you think about that. But I'm very relieved to hear you say that, because I thought that's almost that exact same thing.
I think it's because you're divided into 2 teams, and the gameplay flow of back and forth and trying to kind of guess on a shared word, or in Codenames' case, a shared grid, is really kind of that comparison that I make. So it's very loose. Like, it's definitely not the same game. There's absolutely room for both of them at the table. It fits the same kind of group dynamic that I think Codenames fits really well. But I think that if I was looking for something maybe a little bit more, and it's not even more strategic, but a little bit more in depth, I felt like I got that with Phantom Ink. I felt like it was a little bit deeper, not by much,
I
but
I have to agree with you, and I also want to add that it's really neat because it totally feels like it's a game that kind of not only develops play over play, but really can develop with a group of people. And kind
Mhm.
of what I mean by that is like if you play with people you know and you play with those same people frequently, I think a meta will start to kind of develop, but it
Mhm.
won't always be the same one with other groups. So if you play the same game with two different people, or two different groups rather, I feel like two completely different metas might develop from, from that position essentially, or from not from that position, but rather from those two different groups.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely agree. I think that there's a lot of meta to be made there, and you kind of get better with more plays because you start to see what to ask, which I think is something at the outset with you not having any sort of experience with the game. You don't necessarily think of what to ask, and one of the games that we got into, I think it was Saturday night with the group when we played it. Alyssa and I were kind of hanging out and trying to go more the opposite route. I'm going to try to describe this game the best I can in the most concise time frame that my crazy brain that hasn't gotten much sleep can think of. So essentially, what happens in the game is you have two spirits. They're kind of your captains, and then you have mediums, which you can have at least one, but more than one per team. So you have two teams, and you have a shared word that each of the spirits is trying to communicate. So you're both trying to get your mediums to guess that same word. And the way that you do that is you have these clues that your mediums get that are questions, and your questions are going to be a number of different things. So, like, what would a professional look like using this object, or what color is this object, or things like that. But what we were starting to use were cards like, what is the opposite of this object? What wouldn't this object be made out of? So the way that that comes in is very interesting because basically the spirit is going to go and answer that question one letter at a time. The other team has no idea what question is being answered. So they can kind of, form their own opinions about what that means and try to relate it, but they have no idea what that question was. So they're just seeing this part of a word. And at any time, your mediums can basically say, "Stop! I've got enough information," and then play passes back and forth until one team is ready to guess, and then guessing basically happens one letter at a time. And they go back and forth. If you get it right, you win the game. If you get it wrong, that's more information that the other team gets. So it's a really very interesting game. And I got a demo of it at Gen Con earlier this year. I wasn't like super enthused about it. Like, I was kind of on the fence. But after the demo that we got at the booth here, I was like, I need this so bad. And really glad that we actually wound up both getting copies of this.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer. Honestly, just from the brief overview I've gotten about it in the past few months, a friend of the show, Ray from Czech Games Edition, she worked on this game in a former life and always spoke so highly of it. And, like when she described it, I was like, oh, that sounds like the perfect kind of game that I would bring to a family event. And that's the kind of stuff my family loves to play. So I knew going into this, were it available, I would be absolutely going in on getting it. So I was delighted to find out, not surprisingly, that it was as good as it seemed. So, I was instantly like, oh, yeah, I mean, absolutely, I'm going to be grabbing this.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer. And they had a couple of other really good games. We got a chance to get our hands on Surrealist Dinner Party, which was very interesting. I love the art on it. The gameplay was fairly straightforward. But still very fun, really pretty strategic, but that artwork was really what made that game stand out to me.
The artwork was definitely, I don't know, in my opinion, like it was both a huge part of it after I kind of got a vibe for the game, but also like from the jump when I first looked at it, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be for me. So I'm really glad we sat down and demoed it, because after, a few rounds, it kind of revealed itself to be exactly what it is, which is like a super clever and actually kind of deep card battler sort of vibe. I don't really know if that's a great way to describe it, but that's what it sort of felt like. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would have like approached that on a shelf and purchased it based on the artwork. To be clear, from an objective standpoint, the art is fantastic. It's beautiful and it's very well designed. But in the context of a game, I was kind of like, that's a little weird. I don't know if I'm into that. So
Yeah, it was really a very fascinating game, and I would say your description of it as a card battler is pretty good. You're basically battling for resources, and you might have some players that prefer to stay in their own lane and kind of try to keep as many resources flowing for themselves as possible, and then you have certain cards that have more of a play style of trying to get resources from your opponents, or trying to block up their spots so that they don't necessarily get extra points. Just a really pretty fascinating, seemingly pretty quick. I mean, I think you could get through a round of that once you knew what you were doing in under a half an hour.
yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Turns are not very long or complicated in the process of how the rotation goes. I think it was 1 to 4, or I mean 2 to 4 as well. So I mean, even with a 4 player, a 4 player count, I think it really could be simple, because you really only have like 2 things you can do on your turn. So
Yeah, and just the vibe of the booth as well. In general, aside from that, like I really resonated with Max. No pun intended, and I got a good vibe from them. So interested to see what they come up with next. I really, really love Phantom Inc. Have a copy of it. I'm probably going to be doing more of a full review of it on a later episode once I get it out with a bunch of different people. But yeah, we got it out multiple times during the course of the weekend, and definitely glad that we got our hands on that one.
yeah, same here. I mean, I really enjoyed our time with Max, and it was wonderful to meet Mary and just hear about their kind of their mission. They have a bit of a different take on board games than I think a lot of companies do, but I think that really helps sort of I think it sort of helps guide their mission in terms of development, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward. We're in talks right now to potentially get them on the show so that we can bring that story to you, because it's one that really hits with me quite a bit as well. Dealing with women in STEM, as a concept. So very fascinating. So I went back to the hotel after that, I believe. I got to hang out a little bit with Ryan Espin and Chris Barrows of Tabletop Express. We had hung out on their show for a few times. So I had done Call Aboard, and then I had been on their regular show as well. And they're fantastic, fantastic guys. And being able to hang out multiple times over the course of multiple days. They were in our hotel. Was just such a delight getting to know them a little bit more and getting to know them as people, because again, this is a hobby about people, and they we're sitting there, and Chris basically goes and says, "Oh, Nathan's coming over." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool," and Nathan Thornton, designer of Green Team Wins. Came over and we were chatting and had some coffee together, and just got to pick his brain a little bit as well. So it's always good seeing him. Nathan's always a delight to hang out with, and that. So and then after that, I had a cheese party, which unfortunately you were unable to attend.
No, I missed meeting Nathan too, but I do want to second, just because. It was so much fun getting to hang out with Chris and Ryan all weekend. They are just two, again, like positive forces in our industry, and just people who, instantly, like, very clearly, comfortable to be around. Like, the trust is there right off the bat.
Yep.
They're very, very good eggs. It's like, it's nice to have people that you can kind of fall back on spending time with, especially like in a hotel, if they're in the same hotel with you. And not that we even did that, honestly. All of our hangouts were deliberate and everything, but the fact of the matter is, like, in a space where at any given time you could be spending time with any number of people who any number of them could be strangers, and you just have no idea what to expect with them. It's always just so nice to have a friendly face, and it's great to add 2 new friendly faces to that lineup of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to, hang out with Chris on both days for breakfast. Like, we were sitting there, and they had a couple of other friends with them as well at any given time. And it was just such a delight to kind of have that, rapport with them, that we just went down to breakfast. And, hey, do you mind if I sit with you? Because y'all were sleeping and or getting ready. Depending on what day it was, you had
combo of both, I'm sure.
Combo deal going on. So yeah, definitely good guys there. So excited to be doing some more with them coming up as well. So looking forward to that. But this cheese party kind of started as an online joke, where I don't even necessarily know how it exactly got started, but we were like, I like cheese. And then Alyssa Gambone, who is on Heavy Cardboard quite a bit, she goes, well, I like cheese too. And then Liz from Beyond Solitaire also chimed in and said, well, if you're going to have cheese, I'll have cheese. And we just wound up going over to Reading Terminal and going in the back and buying just a boatload of cheese, sitting in the lobby of the hotel and just eating it. So I would say that I spent more of my time on Friday outside of the hall than I did inside. But it was still completely worth it. Like, it was awesome. And we had some really good stuff. Great sharp cheddar, and then I can't even think of what the Wensleydale, the lemon Wensleydale was an absolute delight. But it was again so good getting to spend more time with Alyssa. I had met her in Salem, but Liz as well. Like, just again, you get that sense from people, a lot of people in this industry that we've kind of gravitated towards, even if we don't necessarily know them. Once we meet them, it's like, oh yeah, they're good people. So I had a lot of fun with them. And then got rid of some board games in the flea market swap before, just kind of coming back and floating around and doing stuff. But you had some other stuff going on during that day, Jamie. What'd you have going
Oh
on?
my goodness, I had so much stuff going on this show that I don't normally. But I mean, going forward, I'm hoping that's a recurring theme for me. I suppose it'll just depend on the convention that we go to. That said, I was teaching mini painting classes, so apparently, I am sought after enough that I was recommended by. Well, I guess I'm not sought after because I was recommended. But anyway, Chris, the charity board gamer, another lovely, lovely friend of our show, was kind enough to drop my name to Matt Morgan, one of the organizers for PAX U, who has been kind of developing a miniature focus schedule for the classes that they offer at PAX U. And it seems like that was a smart thing for Matt Morgan to do, because there were, I think, a couple hours of programming every day centered around minis. There weren't a ton. And this was evidenced by the fact that all three of my classes filled up within about a minute every day during registration. So people were allowed to register at 8 a.m. And I had people reach out to me on Twitter and Instagram that were like, hey, I really wanted to take your class, but registration was closed at 8 a.m. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, as I was trying to, submit my registration, I'd get a message back saying class is full. So, all that said, I had a fantastic weekend teaching those classes. Of course, my brain told me I was relatively underqualified, but by the end of the weekend, I was finally getting my bearings, and I really felt like I figured out what I want to do with that class, which is great, because that is probably going to be the class that I will continue to teach at conventions. I don't know how many people are familiar with what I do in terms of mini painting, but I kind of straddle both worlds between board gaming and minis. One of which is extremely focused on mini painting, and the other being board games, tend to have minis incidentally that, may or may not be something they're interested in painting. But if you're somebody who thinks, you know what, my Blood Rage box would look so much cooler if those minis were a little more, colorful or something like that, well then, look no further. I'm your gal. So that's kind of the plan going forward, and the classes went so well, Arwen. I cannot tell you. I really wish I had recorded it. That would have been awesome. I didn't think about it, and I didn't really have the logistics planned out to do that, but I'm sure in the future I'll do something similar. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a delight, and I really, really can't wait to teach more. And I'm going to do a little shameless plug that also goes for anyone listening. If you want to ever learn more from me, I do stream 3 days a week. Not always mini painting, but, I'm going to be introducing some solo board game content on there. But I do also offer, like individual classes and stuff like that. So all that said, I don't know if you thought you were in for as long of a description as I just gave you.
No, that was perfect. I mean, that was a big part of your weekend, was conducting those courses, and they went over so well. Like, I was so super happy to see that they filled up as quick as they did, because people need to know, like, how talented you are, how good you are at conveying information. Like, every single time I watch your streams, I learn something. Like, I legitimately learn something. And I'm not a mini painter, by any means. There's a possibility that I may be dabbling in the near future with you, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, every single time I watch, I learn something new, and definitely hope that in the future I can get to something like what you did this weekend, because you put a lot of work and effort into it. Jamie put in the work enough that she had sheets that she made, with a bunch of different instructions and bullet points, and it was almost kind of zine-like of, hey, here's what you do with this, in a very succinct and clear illustrated method, and yeah, a lot of really cool stuff that you did with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I was surprised to find out, through like incidental commentary when people would, like talk about the classes or whatever. I genuinely thought that I might be, if anything, a little underprepared for my class, but I was told that there are not really any other teachers that showed up with, like the visual aid that I showed up with, or, the like you said, the resource page that I made. I really have been loving branding it more as a zine. I think I might break it into 4 different pages and just start printing it as a zine. I feel like that'd be a lot of fun.
I think that's super cute, and it would definitely be on brand for you as well. I think that that's an awesome way of presenting stuff.
Well, thank you.
So then we got to Saturday. There's a couple of things that we're missing out on Thursday, but I will loop back to those. We had kind of a wild room party on Thursday night, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So you had your painting class, but while you were doing that, I was meeting up with Roberto Lopez from Sheer Boredom, one of my favorite people of all time. Roberto is such a treat to hang out with and chat with and just talk shop, and someone that I genuinely consider a very, very good friend. And we've made a lot of really good friends in the industry, and really, just established such good, awesome relationships, and people that I would consider really super close friends at this point, more than I ever thought that I'd have. And Roberto's one of them. So I do need to call him more. I'm really bad about calling him. Like, he'll reach out and I'll be like, I should have called him first, to be honest. But we met up at WizKids. We both kind of did a joint, press demo with a few of the things that they have coming up. The thing that I'm most excited to see from them is Rebuilding Seattle. It looks amazing. There's, tile laying, and essentially you're rebuilding these buildings and trying to get these bonuses based on how you're doing it. Not the world's greatest description, but again, I'm tired. Go check it out, like on BGG, to get a sense of what I'm talking about, because it really looks like a very, very cool game that I'm very excited to see what they do next with that. But the reason that we met up is that I recorded what's going to be our episode in 2 weeks, and that is my top 10 games of all time. Roberto approached me, I think, at Origins this year and asked me what my favorite game was. And I said, well, that's like, figuring out who your favorite kid is. And I wound up, kind of being talked into just doing a top 10 list. And he said, well, if you do it, I'll do it. And I said, okay. So we sat in the media room and recorded and had a great time, chatting about that. He had some picks that I never would have thought of that made a whole lot of sense. And I'm really, really excited to have you hear about what he picked out, because I think that there's some really good picks that he had with that. So, and then we had to rush over to Ray's room from CGE because we were streaming. Jamie, do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
I'd be happy to. So we were fortunate enough to be invited to stream with Ray, which has become kind of a favorite ritual of mine at home, and also now at conventions, because this is my second time streaming with her, and your first, which isn't surprising, but you did a wonderful job. We played Codenames. We played Codenames. Go ahead.
I was really bad at Codenames, and by the way, Grant, if you're listening, I'm sorry again. I was a terrible, agent, basically. Is that what it's called? Agent? You know, you have
Yeah.
your clue givers and your agents, I think. I did not pick up on a brilliant clue that Grant gave, and that basically cost us the game. But anyways, sorry to interrupt.
For what it's worth, Grant, if you are listening, I just want to say, Arwen, we told you so. We told you so. Grant and I were 100% on the same page, and Arwen was in a different book.
Entirely.
It was still so much fun, and we did end up netting ourselves a copy of a little teeny tiny Codenames, which is super cool because I've always wanted to turn Codenames into like a purse game, and now I don't have to because I already have the game itself. But yeah, it was wonderful getting to meet Andrew and Jess Fisher from Gameosity and Grant. I mean, it's always good to see Grant. He's hilarious. It was just so cool to hang out with him. You know, and I ended up really honestly on brand. I ended up priming minis the entire time we were playing.
Of course.
Because Ray and I were going to be streaming painting the next hour, and I was like, "Oh, cool! You got the minis?" And you know, she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, well, we're gonna have to prime them." And she's like, "Well, I didn't bring any primer." And I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, of course I did. Of course I brought primer, but you know, you still have to prime them." So I spent the whole time priming the ships while I was playing Codenames. And then, of course, after the fact, Ray and I spent an hour painting up the ships from Starship Captains, which is a brand new STL that the company is offering, the company being CGE, offering to fans, so you could print out your own copies of Starship Captain's ships for your board game. So, Arwen, I'm going to have to get that STL and print us out some ships, and then you and I can do the same thing. We can sit and we can chill and we can paint together.
Ooh, I like that idea.
That way we can both deluxify our Starship Captains. And if you feel really, really, industrious, we could even try painting the little crew members.
Could we take it one step at a time, Jamie?
Yeah, I suppose we could.
I'm trying to get my head around doing the ships first, but those minis are very tiny, and I have very big fingers.
Well, so do I, but I can show you ways to, fix that.
If
not fix your fingers.
Right. There's no fixing that. But if there's anybody that I would trust to be able to do that, it would be you.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, I'm very interested. Speaking of that, we did meet with CGE. That was actually Sunday, but very excited to try out Starship Captains after this. I came into the weekend, super stoked about being able to buy Deal with the Devil, which we talked about on our wrap-up from Gen Con, because we got to demo it, and that was like an instant buy for me. Like, I needed that game desperately, and I picked that up. That was like a no-brainer. But Starship Captains just kind of seemed like, yeah, okay, I'm sure it's going to be good, but not a super huge interest until Nathan described it to us. And then I'm like, oh, this actually sounds really cool. So I'm really excited to try that. And Jamie, I think you kind of felt the same way about it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was already on board for Deal with the Devil. And Starship Captains has been their media blitz focus, which makes total sense because it's so much more approachable, from a wider audience. I think what we said in a different, I believe it was in a different meeting, we joked about how, you make the games you have to make, and you make them well. It's not like you're phoning it in, but you make the games you have to make so that you can make the games you want to make. But we all know CGE never half-asses anything. So, of course, Starship Captains is fantastic. I'm so looking forward to playing it. Although now I have to figure out how I'm going to get it from you because I realized I left it at your house and I am devastated. My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. No, but for real, I am really so excited to get that to the table. In fact, I was hoping to do so for my game night tomorrow, so I doubt that is going to happen at this point. Um, you know, anyway.
Unless you come down during the day, like depending on when it is,
Right.
we can maybe work something out. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
Um, we'll talk after this. Is all
Sounds
I'm
good.
saying. Yeah, but really excited. I almost, if I didn't need to sleep, I almost busted out the solo mode for that today, and I just wasn't able to muster myself up to being able to do that. But it is on the short list of games to check out because I'm really interested to see how that plays out. It sounds like it is going to be right up my alley. I love Heroes. I love space. It sounds like a good time. But yeah, while you were doing that, I was just kind of hanging out at the convention center and walking around, seeing the sights. We met back up with each other and had a meeting with Hachette, who has a amazing lineup of games coming out next year that I am incredibly looking forward to. It's wild to see how many games they're thinking of coming out with. And I think that Danny said it was something like 25 next year that they have scheduled.
Yeah, it was some like massive, unbelievable number.
It was completely ridiculous, and I'm absolutely here for it. There's a couple that I am absolutely really looking forward to. They have one called Vivarium, which, it's not Pokemon, for sure, but very Pokemon-esque with a lot of different creatures that you're trying to get, a lot of very interesting drafting going on. And then the other one that is coming out very early is Rahua, or Rauha. I can't quite remember how to pronounce that one, but if I get my hands on it, definitely going to be interested in reviewing that one for you as well. Gorgeous artwork on just about everything that they've done. And a lot of really good stuff, including another abstract game that they've kind of become synonymous with as well. Kind of Mancala and 4 in a row with gorgeous little chunky stones as well. Jamie, anything from them that you're really looking forward to next year?
I'm just looking forward to potentially getting my hands on those games and just staring at them all day because the artwork on them is just like drool worthy.
It's so gorgeous.
Like Tribes of the Wind, just like unbelievable. I mean, I've been seeing the box art everywhere on all of the the social media like influence, Twitter and stuff. And every time I see that box, I'm like, I need that. I need that in my life. Because it evokes like Nausicaa from Studio Ghibli and like all these like really great, cozy, memorable, like places in my head, and so naturally, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I need that on my shelf so that I can continue to look at it on my own time.
And
yeah, I really.
That extends past the box art too. I mean, the box art is absolutely gorgeous, but the card art too is the same style, and it is very bright, very evocative, and
Absolutely
wonderful.
And that extends to the meeples as well. We were able to see the meeples, in action and stuff, and they're these cute little trees, and of course, Hachette does something with does a game, yet another game, with the style and panache that we have come to expect from them. So.
and of course, one of their studios is Sorry, We're French, which just always just gives me a chuckle. But yeah, they've really come a long way. With one of my favorite games in Nidavellir, from this year. I thought that game is an absolute banger. Turing Machine, I haven't been able to get my hands on quite yet, but everybody is going absolutely crazy over that. And then Shamans, which, again, I think doesn't get the love that it deserves because that is such a fantastic trick-taking game. That I definitely was kind of sleeping on, and Matt Hawker was the one that really got me into that and said you need to play this, and finally just sat me down at Origins, and I am so glad they did because that was such a wonderful game. So they know what they're doing.
That one was an instant buy for me as well. It's just hit after hit from them, and again, each and every single one of them has just the most it's just dripping with style. Like they clearly have carved out an artistic niche for themselves. That's come to be maybe not expected from their games, but has been something that they have kind of clearly set as a bar for themselves. And they crush it every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we met with Julie at Van Ryder, which, if you listen to the last episode, you know what my thoughts were on Final Girl. It is such a wonderful solo game. And as soon as I played that, I was trying to seek out a media meeting with them as well. Julie is a delight. She's been in the industry for quite a while now. And has moved over to Van Ryder, and it was a wonderful discussion that we had with her about the Final Girl series. Season 2 is coming up. That's going to be coming out in the near future. Excited to see all the different characters, coming out for that. A lot of really cool concepts and ideas. Obviously, anything that's modular and plays very wildly different, with a style of its own that really kind of evokes an emotional experience, and does it in different ways from, set to set is beautiful. And one of the things that you mentioned, Jamie, that I think is really kind of resonated with me is been, just the low entry point for that game, because you can get in for about $35, with the core set, with all the stuff that you need to play, and then you basically choose which of the different movies you really kind of resonate with, and I think that's great. I think it's a fantastic way of doing it. Keeps the price point relatively low for those who don't necessarily like all the different options. They just want one or two, or you can get them all. So it's your choice.
Yeah, I'm super, super excited. I've been wanting to get my hands on it since it debuted, I want to say at PAX last year, and it was just impossible to get because it was just flying off the shelves every time it hit them. So I am so excited to have finally gotten my hands on it, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully doing some of that on stream as solo content in the near future. So I picked up the Geppetto version, and obviously the core set, along with, shocking absolutely nobody, the minis. So I'll probably be painting those here before I start doing the solo streaming. But I'm really excited to get to do that, and I loved the conversation we got to have with Julie. That was wonderful. Just another great person, another person worth admiring in our industry. So
Yeah, she's certainly done a lot for the industry, and continues to as well.
Hmm.
Um, and there is talk of a season three. We don't know any major details for that, but that's going to be great, I'm sure. With all the creative stuff that they come up with. So, um, I'm hoping to talk with Julie on a future episode. I think that she's got a lot of good stories, and again, she's done a lot of really good work within the industry. So, I'd like you to hear her story. So after that, we met up with Tim Vernig from Thunderworks in what's become a very much a tradition of going out and having some beers. Took an Uber over to Victory Brewing. I had a wonderful pot pie. Olivia joined us there as well, which was always fun having her. Um, you know, Again, met her in person for the first time on Thursday, and just wanted to, make sure that she felt welcome, and brought her over to Victory as well. And we had a great time. Jamie, you brought Tinder Blocks with you
I
that we
did.
got to play, and that was such a treat.
I am just obsessed with that game. It's going to stay in my purse, along with the couple of button shy titles I got. I'm always such a sucker for Dex games, and it's a miracle I don't own more of them. Limited only by my pocketbook, as it were. Yeah, it's this cool little campfire building game where you really simple, 1 through 4 players. You draw cards. The cards tell you what you need to add to the campfire. And so it's like reverse Jenga. You're adding these long logs that are square, rectangular in shape, rather. And you're also adding these small cubes that are fire colors. So, yellow and red. And the card indicates how many of them you need to put on. And if you need to put on more than one of them. So in some cases, you're stacking 2 fire cubes on top of each other. Sometimes you're putting a fire cube on top of a log. All of these things are being added to that pile with a set of tweezers. Now, the tweezers are designed in such a way that you cannot grab the stack from the top. You actually have to kind of grab it at an angle, or rather, grab the bottom of the 2 items, which makes it extra difficult because then the top one slides around. You have to stack the item before you place it on the campfire, and that always lends itself to just these hilarious moments of people trying repeatedly to put 2 fire cubes on top of one another, one sliding off, having to add another one. And then, of course, add drinks into the mix. And you've got yourself a wonderful, albeit hazard-prone, dexterity game that's just perfect in a small box for a great price. I cannot recommend it enough.
Well, you absolutely want it to be hazard prone because that's what makes it so much fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really love that little small tin format that they've got. Did you mention that was Alley Cat Games as well for those
I did
who
not
are
mention
looking
that,
for
but
it?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of a surprise for me because I'm not usually huge into dexterity games, and I just love the simplicity of it. I love the footprint. It's a perfect bar game. I obviously, if you've listened to the show for a while now, my love for those quick little very portable experiences that you can throw in your pocket, you can throw in your purse. Don't take a huge amount of time, and don't take a huge amount of space. So love those, and this was definitely one of them. Unfortunately, I didn't get to pick it up before I left, but it does look like there's still some availability online for those who are looking to get in.
And just as a little add-on, while I was over there getting Tinder Blocks, I also got to look at their proto for a new game coming out called Arboreum. I think it's either on Kickstarter now or it will be soon, but it's definitely one to check out.
Awesome. And I brought, it's kind of a fun story. This was one that I got a media invite as part of being media coverage for the convention. I stopped by. I got a copy of this as a review copy. Um, I'm not huge on a lot of the party games anymore that are feeling Cards Against Humanity esque, which this at its outset kind of did. It felt very. You just kind of see the cards and you're like, oh yeah. Which maybe I was a little bit too much to judge so quickly. Um, this was a more of a storytelling game. Um, I will say that my one big complaint about it was going through the rules and trying to figure out exactly how to play and exactly when to vote, when cards, are supposed to be played. I think that was a little bit ambiguous. It was tough to figure out. We all sat there as people who play a lot of games at the bar, and I don't think it was a matter of how much we drank because we only had a couple beers. And trying to figure that out was a little bit nebulous. But once we got playing, I had a lot of fun with the prompts that came up and the stories that were told, and basically the experience that this facilitated. It wasn't necessarily the gameplay itself, but really the clever prompts and questions that they brought up. I felt made a really cool experience. What did you think about this one, Jamie?
I ended up having a lot of fun with it. I am a bit of a I don't know how to put this. I really do like looking at rule books and thinking about how they could be rewritten or optimized, and that one certainly needed another pass. But once we sort of put two and two together and really started to kind of figure out the vibe of the game, it was actually pretty charming. One of the things I brought up that night when we were playing was that, those sorts of games are super popular right now because the cost of entry to produce something like that is super, super low. And of course, there are, a million card-based party games out there. So it's always really funny to me when we actually see one that has a bit of a different take on the existing trope, of card-based party game. It's not a Cards Against Humanity where, everybody's playing a card to try to get somebody to laugh. It's more of a, you draw a card and then you add the human element to the game. The game is more about you and the stories you're telling than it is about the game itself. So it just sort of gamifies social interaction, which I think a lot of us in the board game industry really appreciate. It was fun. It was fun. I don't know. I don't know that I would have picked it up myself, but I did really enjoy playing it.
Yeah, I think this is one that is perfect for that kind of situation where you have people that are trying to get to know each other. I think especially, those interactions where you're not quite sure about somebody, that you've just met, and you want to get to know a little bit more about them and get to understand a little bit more, not only about their life, but how they handle situations and that. This is absolutely perfect for that. And excuse me. I've been talking for quite a bit now. Unfortunately, this won't be edited out, but really, the one medium that I kept thinking about with this was a cruise ship. And going back onto a cruise and having this on a cruise ship where everybody's sitting around and, you have like an hour and a half and you're just chatting and that, I think that this would be perfect for having those prompts. And I really like that, and again, this wouldn't necessarily be one that I would be immediately going out and picking up like right away on my own. But now that I have it, I'm really glad that I have it. Like
Yeah.
this is one that I'll probably wind up, taking to a number of different social events, maybe at work, and stuff that we want some more of that icebreaker feel, and that's what this is perfect for.
Yeah, I think it really, I mean, it definitely has a place in the old, party game bag. In the right circumstances, breaking it out could really just kind of set the tone for a fun evening.
Yeah, and after we did that, again, beers with Tim is always fun. I can't wait to go back again, and probably going to be again Origins. But it's a tradition at this point, and it's one that I certainly look forward to, and we always have a good time. Whether it's the entire crew from Thunderworks or whether it's just him, we always have a fun time. So, absolutely, a great experience there. Came back to the hotel, played a couple of things, including Phantom Ink, and went out and got ice cream at like 1:30 in the morning at 7-Eleven with you, me, and Court, which was awesome. Got a selfie there, and I'm so glad that we did, because that was was like one of my favorite selfies.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It was so amazing. And then we got up for our final day. We already talked about CGE. We already talked about your painting classes. But we did have a couple of highlights. We met with Weird Giraffe. We talked with them about Wicked and Wise, their brand new trick-taking game. Trick-taking is certainly exploded over the past couple of years, and especially this year, I feel like there's been a lot of really solid games. Whether it's been things like Shamans or Tome or Cat in the Box, like this genre that I thought that I absolutely hated. Now I've got all these games that I'm like, oh, I love this. Because it's using it in a very clever and unique way, and I'm starting to wrap my head around it a little bit more. The artwork on this is absolutely gorgeous. Beth Sobel is fantastic. Tessa's a great designer. I'm really looking forward to the card interaction. It's once again unique from Weird Giraffe, who brings you everything unique, or at least an interesting spin on tried and true mechanics. They're definitely one that I always gravitate towards when I see something. I need to at least try it.
Yeah, I really do love the point you make about, like trick taking games in general, because I have always loved trick taking games. I'm a huge fan of euchre. And so of course when I found out that there's an entire, like collection or rather subgenre of games that, is dedicated to that concept, I was sold already. But I quickly found out that, yeah, I mean, there is like a limited amount of, existing, permutations of that concept. But every time, somebody takes it and kind of runs with it a little bit, they just sort of, they capitalize, or they compound on an existing mechanic that really hasn't, I don't think, been given a lot of love in the past. And so it's really cool to see all the different features that they're adding to it. And I'm super, super excited to get Wicked and Wise to the table. We did walk away with this one. And, I'm a huge fan of, as we mentioned, Shamans. I got Tricky Tides to the table the other day and didn't get to play the whole thing, but like the concept of it seems really cool. So I'm just super excited about even more trick-taking games. Oh, and I'd be remiss not to mention The Crew, of course, which is another one of my favorites. So this concept of like trick-taking games going to co-op is kind of interesting too. So I'm really eager to see how the team-based thing works, because that is kind of back to the old euchre format, which is you and another teammate. So I don't know. I'm super excited. Like you said, the art is gorgeous. I love the concept of the dragon teamed up with the mouse. I think that's just so cool. And I'm just really, really eager.
The card.
I know, he's so cute.
Oh, it's so
I'm just
cute.
so eager to try this one out.
Yeah, I think this is one that's definitely coming out this weekend. I have a game day that's going to be coming out on Saturday, and um, I think that this is going to be one that's at the top of my list. Not only that, but I posted a poll on Twitter, at least a picture of what came home with me, and Wicked and Wise. Unsurprisingly, because there's a number of people from Weird Giraffe that I'm friends with, but it is one that I'm very interested to check out, and there's a lot of pull from that as well. Even outside of Weird Giraffe, there's a lot of people who are saying really good stuff about that. So, and meeting with Jess as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about that. She is such a sweetheart. Wonderful, wonderful meeting with her as well. We had a
Absolutely.
great conversation, and you know, we just kind of have gone and kind of developed the relationship with people that we'll get business done, and then we want to know about the people behind the games, and that really extends to who they are, and just having a personal one-on-one conversation with them about whatever. It doesn't have to be gaming. It can be completely outside of gaming, and usually is, which I value. I treasure those meetings. I really, really enjoy them.
Yeah, one of our things that I like to do that's become kind of a standard part of our meetings is like tell the person that we're meeting with, like, hey, now is your chance to continue to look as if you're working and holding this meeting so that no one bothers you and you can just take a breather. And
Yeah.
usually that results in us getting to chit chat a little bit and like take off the professional hat for a moment and really get to, like you said, like get down and get to know you know who they are, what they do, what they love, just all those sorts of fun getting to know you situations. I feel like we've made so many deep relationships with people over the span of the meetings that we've had just from that particular element of the meeting.
I'm still very interested. By the way, I haven't heard quite yet, but still very much want to know what Danny's favorite pizza is too. Um,
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's-
I don't know if you saw my follow up question.
I thought that was the good one too.
The follow up question I had was, what North American animal do you think you could take in a fight, and how many of them do you think you could take? So I'm eager to hear what her response to that is.
Yes, absolutely. I do. I do think that she made a really good point in saying, a lot of times the first question that they get asked is, well, what do you do? And that's not necessarily the value. Yes, it's a business question, and we've kind of been conditioned to, really put a lot of focus on what you do for a business, as basically your worth as a human being, which I don't think is the world's greatest attitude to have. And really having those insightful, like, little nuggets about people is what we really like to see and hear in that. So, really, really interesting to see her take on that. I really appreciated her saying that because it's very
Agreed.
true. So then, the last one that I wanted to talk about was our meeting with Cosmos. Court's always a delight to hang out with and get to hear from, and and she basically said, our lineup coming up, for the most part, that's out now. But here's what we got coming up, and the one game that I really wanted to talk about, they do have a very fun looking dice game. That's a very compact footprint. Anytime you get to chuck dice is a wonderful experience. But they have and the way that Court described it was perfect. They have a game that's coming out, and Court basically said, "What if we took the crew and we added hidden roles to it. And I'm like, yes, please. This is this
I'm
is something that
listening.
I absolutely want. Um, and it's called the Inside Job. It's coming out summer of next year. And this is something that I am absolutely intrigued by. Like I wanna get my hands on this because it just sounds, the crew is amazing. But the crew with a little bit more spiciness to it is going to be absolutely absurd.
I already love the crew. I mentioned it earlier. I think when she said, imagine the crew, but with hidden roles, I think both of us just kind of like our heads cocked a little bit. And we were like, excuse me?
Hmm.
Because we're both, we're not the hugest hidden roles fan, but like, the crew is already such an intriguing game because of the kind of the no talking approach, and the cooperative nature of that game, despite the no talking approach. So when you add in the prospect of hidden roles as well, I think both of us were just kind of like, okay, first of all, how? And second of all, when? you know. So I think that one is an easy sell for us, but I am eager to know more. And of course, I love dice and I love small games. So a dice small game literally might as well just be called Jamie.
Yes. Jamie the game.
So that there you have it.
Yeah, that's going to be a very, very fascinating job. And then obviously more exit. More
Mm-hmm.
exit, coming from Cosmos, obviously going to be awesome. So looking forward to their lineup that's coming up, and looking forward to hanging out with Court more because she's always. I think you hit the nail on the head so hard with her in the fact that she is so good at board games, like just coming up with ridiculous strategies and really being able to turn stuff on its head. And it's just such fun hanging out with her.
Oh yeah,
Her
she's a sneaky
personality
one.
is, yeah, she is. Just her personality is wonderful, and we always love spending time with her. So the last thing that I do want to mention, we did before we got to CGE, we were walking by the KTBG booth, and Roberta Taylor was there, who I had said hi to on Friday, and you hadn't played Maple Valley.
I had not.
But fortunately, she was free, and she sat down and gave us a demo, and you got to play a couple of rounds, and I was interested to hear what you thought about not only Maple Valley, but also Roberta.
Oh, I'm obsessed. I'm so ready for Maple Valley at this point. I mean, I already was. But like getting a chance to try it out obviously just like stoked that fire a little bit. And then of course Roberta was just the most charming person ever to play with. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you had put a number of people in a room and said that one of these people made Creature Comforts, which happens to be like one of my favorite games, full stop, I feel like you could, or at least I feel pretty confident that I could pick out who she was.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
she's just got this energy just oozing from her pores of like, this is a safe, friendly, cozy person, just like, but very down to earth, very approachable, very just like, she's exactly who she is. And I know that probably sounds stupid, but like, it was such a delight getting to talk to her and spend time with her and get to see her clear love for the game and the world that she's created. And as somebody again who also really loves that world, it was a little extra special because I just had such a nice time, getting to share that moment with not only her, but you and Rachel as well. So I'm even more looking forward to Maple Valley at this point, and not to brag, but one of the card ideas that I suggested is going to be put in the game.
Mm-hmm. Jamie stamp of approval on the game and her footprint right in the box itself.
That's right.
Yeah, Roberta is such a delight, and really, you really hit it on the head with that, because you can see that this is a product of her as a person. Like, you just get that sense of this is her game. This is what she wanted to do. This fits with her so much. And, she's pointing out the small details, like, basically when you get to the top of the board and you're going to return, you've made this journey, basically all the way up to the top, and then you're taking a little hang glider to get back to the bottom of the board, and there's these little art details, and she pointed that out to us and was very excited about it. And I was like, oh my God, there's these cute little hang gliders, and it just fits so well. And yeah, I mean, it is absolutely something that I am so excited, not only to get it, because I know that I already like it, but also the fact that, this is another creation of hers that she gets to put out into the world. And I think that that's fantastic. So I think that kind of wraps up our experience. There was a couple of things I also, wanted to mention. The Thursday night party that we got to kind of host in our hotel room.
Oh yeah.
There used to be a little bit of a, there were a couple of media events, and they just kind of dropped off at PAX, and we just wanted to say, you know what? Let's have some friends over. Let's just hang out, have some friends over, see who wants to come. Let's just play some games. And we got to play Medium. We got to play Ready, Set, Bet, which, again, I love that game. I love that game so much. It's a fantastic game. From a group standpoint, if you want something that you want a large crowd, you want energy at the table, that is your game. Because we had, I'm trying to think of who all was at the table. I mean, Court was there. You were betting. I was running the thing.
Ryan and
Chris.
We had Olivia.
Olivia was there. I can't remember if Matt was there or not. I think
Matt had to leave by that point.
But yeah, we just had such a fun time, and it felt right. Again, it's just hanging out with people and playing games, and at one point we were just chanting horse, 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 and everybody at the table's doing it as, we're rolling dice and the horse are moving down the track, and everybody's yelling 7, no, 8, and it's just the perfect fit for that night that we really wanted to get, and I thought that was great. Friday night, I also got in on a game of Cosmic Frog, which was fantastic. Really love that game. If you haven't checked that one out, it is absolutely absurd. It is a Jim Felly creation. I believe that there is a second print run that's going through right now. You can buy it directly on the Devious Weasel website, or your FLGS might be carrying it coming up soon. Just a wonderful time. I always love playing that game, and that was a really cool memory as well. And just some of the inside jokes that we have, and I'm not going to talk about specifics or anything, but things like we can say lasagna now, and our group knows what we're talking about at this point.
Definitely.
We can say say take your teeth out, and our group knows what you're talking about. Um, there's other ones too that we're just sitting there laughing our butts off, and it's just like these little fun moments and these inside jokes that we have with each other. Because it's just fun. I mean, we just have such a great time doing these things, and I don't think that people who don't go to conventions really understand that. And that's really something that I cherish and always look forward to.
No, and the beauty of it is that, it's not an exclusive thing. So just by
Exactly.
virtue of not being at the cons, it doesn't mean that you are not someone who'd be welcome into those spaces. The beauty is that everyone is, that's kind of the fun of the whole thing, is like everyone is totally welcome. Like that. I mean, Matt and Olivia, I only knew them online before this weekend, and now we are true friends. Like, they are people who I would welcome into my home to stay with me, after a weekend of spending time together. It's a no-brainer. These people are just wonderful and continue to be wonderful, and the industry continues to be so welcoming and just a great place to be, because of those people. So
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect, wrap up from that. We didn't mention meeting Kieran and Rick, on I think it was Friday, but I had to go back at the end and say hi to both of them because we had such a fun time hanging out with them as well. And exchanging jokes, and there's certain trans jokes that we share. And it's a very shared experience, and again, it's one of those things that I think the more that we bring people into this hobby and the more time that we share with them at the table, I think the better. And again, it's something that you talked about, people being online and being just friends online, and that you met this weekend. And now, I feel very comfortable just, hey, I'm going to be in the area. Do you want to grab coffee? Do you want to meet up? That kind of thing. I had met Alyssa before, but I hadn't met Liz before. And I would absolutely go and just, hey, if I was in the Salem area, let's go do some stuff together. With Alyssa and that. So it's just really, it's such a welcoming hobby. And there's just a warmness about it that I really love. And I think we found home. And it's a beautiful thing. We've got a lot coming up, a lot of very good connections that I made this weekend. A lot of very exciting things that are going to be coming up later next year. And a lot of people that I'm very interested for you to hear who they are, hear their stories, and we're going to deliver that, which is just incredibly exciting because I get to share all of this stuff that we just talked about and all of these feelings. I get to share those experiences with you and, kind of bring that energy and those stories directly to you. And I think that that's pretty awesome. And Jamie's not saying anything right now, so.
I didn't really have much else to add. You put everything so nicely. I didn't want to ruin that beautiful dismount.
Thank you. It was like a 8 out of 10, I think.
Oh, here, let me, I do have something to add.
Yeah.
What she said.
That's what she said. Anyways, I think we're both very tired. But thank you for listening to us ramble on for about an hour and a half about, what was an awesome experience. I think I am going to close this out by telling a story on the way back home, because I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this. Um, and then we'll get into our socials, and then we'll go home. But really, the we were just really, really tired on Sunday. We had to wait for Jesse, one of our friends that was riding in the car with us. We had to wait for him to get done with one of his obligations, and we were hanging out with Ray and Eric. I almost forgot about Eric. I got to meet him this weekend as well. And we're sitting in the lobby hanging out and just punch drunk because, again, it's the end of the convention. You're tired. You just want to go home, but you also just really want to spend as much time as possible with your friends that are there, and just maybe eke out one or two more of those moments, which we absolutely did. But on the way home, we kind of departed about 9 o'clock, and it put us into a rural part of Pennsylvania at 2 o'clock in the morning. And we got off the road to go to a Sheetz to get gas. And, it was a very... The way that Rachel described it was perfect, because it was a very liminal Sheetz. You walked in, it was a very different design than most. The bathrooms felt familiar, but the rest of it didn't. And it felt very strange. And I walked out of the restroom, and there was this weird version of the 12 Days of Christmas that was playing by a group called The Bird and the Bee. I think that order is proper, but they're like a pop duo that started in 2006. I've done research because this was such a really big mind trip for me. And there's so many key changes in this song that it feels off and wrong. And at 2 o'clock in the morning at a rural Sheetz that's off an exit on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, that you've been in Pennsylvania for way too long and, don't know exactly when you're going to get out, and this starts playing, it really screws with your mind, and you start going to very bad places. I needed to know, because we were all confused and laughing about it and trying, just not to crack right there, and go into the back rooms or something, like I'm sure they were trying to get us to do at that point with this song. But I needed to know. I needed to know what this song was. So I kept looking up like weird, strange 12 Days of Christmas, offbeat 12 Days of Christmas, and you get the standard like parody types of stuff, and that's fine. But I couldn't figure out how to do it until Rachel kind of tag teamed it, and she goes, well, I watched this documentary about, how there's just set companies that handle the music for grocery store chains, and they're all playing the same thing at the same time. And I just typed in, okay, well, Sheetz, music, and the first result was a list of the last 10 songs. And you can go this, you can Google it, you can look at it. It is there. It's a Muzak website that lists the last 10 songs that were played at Sheetz. And you can go in, and in case you need to know, for the two people, I was one of them this year, that needed to know what song was playing at Sheetz. You can do that, and I got that. And sure enough, I looked up the song, and we played it, and it was just like the most surreal moment. I felt such joy and such accomplishment in being able to figure out what this song was, because I needed to share it with the world. So if you go on Twitter, you can go in, you can get a link to it, or you can just type in 12 Days of Christmas, The Bird and the Bee, and you will hear what is the biggest mind trip that you will ever go on, and horrifying key changes, and it's glorious. but those are the kind of memories that we have, from these things. These are the kind of weird stories I always remember, over what games I saw, um, things like that. Oh, the lines I waited in or whatever. It's those moments that you always remember. And I just wanted to share that with you because it was such a weird thing that happened that I couldn't not close with this. So
I do want to just tack on to the really unhinged Christmas song. I kind of take issue with you describing it as weird. Weird is nowhere near what I would describe this song as. Weird is underwhelming for what this song is. It's eldritch,
yeah,
if anything.
yeah. It's an undersales job, I think, because it's so bizarre. But eldritch is a very good term for it. I like that. So let's wrap up, Jamie. How can people find your socials if they're looking to get a hold of you?
All you need to do is climb to the top of the tallest nearby mountain and light the large beacon of logs that is inevitably there, and you will then be following me on socials.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just kidding, of course. I am Jamie Daggers on almost all social medias: Twitch, Instagram, Hive, Twitter. Although Twitter, I'm still fighting for my life against the other Jamie Daggers who has the Jamie no space Daggers. I currently have Jamie _ Daggers, and someday I will best him. But today is not that day.
I also have that strange relationship with Cardboard Time on Twitter, and I am Cardboard _ Time. Jamie, do you have any other socials that people need?
Are you implying that I do? Did I miss one?
I don't know. It's late, and I really don't understand words at this point. So,
oh no, that's okay. I don't either. Yeah, I think the most important one is Twitch because I do stream 3 days a week, and then Twitter if you want to hear like my unhinged, ramblings of, but it's just kind of like, like, God, I can't even talk. So tired. It's just my stream of consciousness usually. I don't say much of, like significant value there, but,
Yeah, neither do I. So it's mutual. So I am Cardboard _ Time on Twitter and Instagram. Cardboardtime.com is a website if you want to go there and have everything all in one place. I'm kind of taking a hiatus from Hive because the Android app is trash, and hopefully that they fix some major security issues with it. I am on Mastodon. You can go to my Twitter to get that link because I'm too tired to figure out exactly what it is, and I don't have it in the show notes. And you can email cardboardtime@gmail.com with any questions, suggestions, or ideas for discussion topics. Next week's, or the show in the 2 weeks after this time frame, is going to be my top 10 games of all time. I'm extremely excited for you all to hear about this. Some wonderful discussion with Roberto, and really, really, really excited for you to get to hear that. So, as always, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for that top 10 list on Cardboard Time.